Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the November 18th meeting of the Yakima School Board. Welcome to the meeting. I would like to introduce Teresa. We do offer Spanish interpretation services. Teresa's with Language Connection. If you need translation assistance in person, please check with Teresa for a device. And Teresa, would you please translate that information for
Buenas
us?
noches, mi nombre es Teresa, estoy disponible si es que necesitan interpretación, nada más alcen la mano, aquí voy a estar del cuartillo a su mano derecha, gracias.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. If you wish to make public comment this evening, there will be two available options for you. The first option is for commenting on agenda items only, and the second option, which comes towards the end of the meeting, is for all other topics. In order to speak tonight, you'll need to sign both the sign-in form and the guidelines form. We also provide live streaming for our meetings. The link can be found on the webpage under the Board of Directors tab on our district website. Barb, would you please take the roll?
Director Walker,
Here.
Director Navarro Jr.,
Here.
Director Rice,
Here.
President Beckett,
Here.
Vice President Villanueva is excused.
I'd like to invite you to please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The character word of the month is kind, showing compassion, friendliness, and consideration towards others.
Today, the schools of the Yakima School District rest on the ancestral lands of the 14 confederated tribes and bands of the Yakima Nation.
Hoy las escuelas del Distrito Escolar de Yakima descansan en las tierras ancestrales de las 14 tribus y bandas confederadas de la nación Yakima.
The people of the Yakima Nation inhabited more than 12 million acres.
La gente de la nación Yakima habitó más de 10 billones de acres.
Across Adams, Benton, Chelan, Douglas, Franklin, Grant, Kittitas, Klickitat, and Yakima counties.
En los condados de Adams, Benton, Chelan, Douglas, Grant, Franklin, Kittitas, Klickitat, y Yakima.
Today we honor those native peoples who are tied to the land through history, legends, and culture.
Hoy honramos a estos pueblos originales que están vinculados en la tierra a través de historias, leyendas y culturas.
We acknowledge the descendants who live in the world today.
Reconocemos a sus descendientes que viven en el mundo de hoy.
We thank the caretakers of this land who have lived here and continue to live here since time immemorial.
Agradezcamos a los guardianes de la tierra, quienes han vivido aquí y continúan viviendo aquí desde tiempos inmemoriales.
An acknowledgement is a simple, powerful way to show respect.
Un reconocimiento es una manera simple y poderosa de mostrar respeto.
And a step toward correcting the stories and practices that erase indigenous peoples' history and culture.
Y un paso hacia la corrección de las historias y prácticas que borran la historia y la cultura de los pueblos indígenas.
It also honors the truth. También honra la verdad. As a school district, we will continue to build upon our relations with the Yakima Nation.
Como distrito escolar, continuaremos fortaleciendo nuestras relaciones con la nación Yakima.
Thank you, Barb. This is our first meeting of the board since the untimely passing of Reverend Donald Davis Jr. Reverend Davis served on our board from 2016 through 2021, and he was a passionate champion for the students of our district and of our community. So I would like to ask you to please join us in a moment of silence in the memory of Reverend Davis. Thank you. We have a fair number of people to recognize this evening. some of our retirees are here to be recognized and for us to show our appreciation and gratitude. I was wondering, Dr. Green, would you like to introduce the charcuterie boards? Would you like me to explain that? I'm particularly excited about this particular giveaway because my son is involved in their creation. And we have a fabulous program here at Davis High School in the woodshop program where they're making charcuterie boards. And the students have used this as an opportunity for a curriculum where they've purchased the raw material and they have created them in shop under very specific guidance, of course. And then they're laser engraved on the back with the district logo as a thank you. They also laser engraved the individual name of the student that made the particular charcuterie board. So it's a fun, I think it's a fun gift of appreciation for our retirees. We have a large list, so I think what we'll do first is ask if they're in attendance or not. And if so, if you are, when your name is called, please come on up. We invite you to run the gauntlet so we can shake your hand and say thank you in person. First on the list is Julie Callison here tonight. Excellent, welcome. Julie began her career with the district in 1992 as a bus driver, serving in that role until 2013. She returned to the transportation department in 2020, continuing her service through 2024. During her initial tenure, Julie also worked as a certified trainer, providing guidance and instruction to new drivers. Upon her return, she supported both general education and special needs transportation programs. Altogether, Julie dedicated 26 years to the district, exemplifying professionalism, dependability, and a steadfast commitment to student safety and success. She worked for the Yakima School District from February 19th of 2020 to June 18th of 2024. Thank you and congratulations, Julie. Is Shirley Carr here this evening? Shirley was a district employee from October 24th of 2011 through June 18th of 2024. Please join me in thanking Shirley for her service to our district. Alan Davis Jr. Alan, are you here this evening? Excellent, excellent, excellent. Welcome. Alan dedicated 31 years of service to Franklin Middle School. Go Quakers. He began his career at Franklin as a science teacher, later transitioned to teaching computer applications, and eventually became a PE and health teacher. Throughout his career, Alan remained committed to supporting students and helping them grow. Alan worked for the Yakima School District from September 7th of 1983 to August 31st of 2025. Again, congratulations and thank you, Alan.
Next is Sherry Fletcher. Sherry, are you here today? No. Sherry served the Yakima School District from January 13, 1995 through August 31st of 2025. How about a round of applause for Sherry Fletcher? James Fletcher. Yes, sir. James joined the district in 2001 as a bus driver and faithfully served through 2024. For 22 years, he drove route number 2, providing safe and reliable transportation for students attending Eisenhower, Wilson, and Gilbert schools. Throughout his career, James demonstrated exceptional dedication and professionalism, earning the respect of colleagues, families, students, and students alike. He worked for the Yakima School District from 8/30/2001 to 8/31/2024. Another round of applause for him. Next is Benita Garza. Benita here? Yes, she is. Benita was hired in 1991 as a secretary at Davis High School. During her time at Davis, she served several roles: migrant secretary to Jim Rigney, assistant registrar alongside colleague Jean Chandler, attendant secretary, and finally the ASB secretary. Benita dedicated 34 wonderful years to the Davis family and community. She worked for the Yakima School District from 8/2/1991 through 8/31/2025. Another round of applause for Benita. Dorothy Gillespie. All right. Looks like we're losing all our bus drivers today. Dorothy began her career with the school district in 2002. For many years, she drove Route 12, providing safe and dependable transportation for students attending Eisenhower, Martin Luther King Jr., and Adams schools. Known for her kindness and dedication, Dorothy built strong connections with her students and will be greatly missed by all who had the pleasure of riding her bus. I think it's you, Mike.
Lynn Green. I know Lynn is here. Lynn joined Davis High School in August 1983 and retired in July 2025 after 42 years, fondly known as the Team Mom. Thank you, Lynn. Beyond her dedication to Davis, she also shared her passion for literature and writing as an adjunct professor at YVCC, where she taught English 101 and 102 for 20 years. Lynn's commitment to both high school and college students reflects a lifelong devotion to education and mentorship. She worked for the Yakima School District from August 25 to 1983, to August 31, 2025. Lynn Green.
I would just like to add also that I was at Davis most of the years that Benita and Lynn were there, and it was an extreme pleasure to work with both of them. And students that I worked with had nothing but kind words to say about both of them, so it's a real loss for our district. Next up, we have James Hartshorn. James began his career with the district in 2002. During his tenure, he served as both a general education and special needs bus driver, most recently providing transportation for students at Davis and Gilbert. In addition to his driving duties, James served as a shop steward representing his fellow drivers as part of Teamsters Local 760. His dedication, leadership, and commitment to supporting both students and colleagues have been greatly appreciated by the department and the district. He worked for the Yakima School District from October 4th, 2002 through August 31st, 2025. Is Ann Kajrenius here this evening? Ann worked for the Yakima School District from June 25th, 1999 through August 31st, 2024. Is James Kruger here this evening? James worked for the Yakima School District from January 3rd, 2017 through August 31st, 2025. Julie Lancaster. Julie worked for the Yakima School District from October 24th, 2023 through May 28th, 2025.
Even though they're not here, let's have a round of applause.
Yes.
Next on the list, Christine Lewis. Is Christine present this evening? Christine worked with us from October 1st of 2012 through August 31st of 2025. Let's hear it for Christine. Tammy MacArthur. Don't see Tammy. Tammy worked for us from October 21st of 2019 through August 31st of 2025. Thank you very much to Tammy. Is Arnold Mackey here? Arnold is here. Welcome. Welcome up. Arnie was hired in 1990 and spent his first 10 years teaching at Garfield Elementary. He then transitioned to the middle school level, where he dedicated the next 20 years at Lewis and Clark Middle School. Congratulations. Before moving to Wilson Middle School, where he concluded his career teaching physical education. Arnie devoted a total of 33 and a half years to the students and families of the Yakima School District. You can still find him at school sporting events, cheering on students and continuing to build lasting connections. He worked for the district from September 12th, 1991 through June 30th of 2024. Congratulations, Arnie.
And we just had a laugh. Arnie was a student in the district one time when I worked in the district. So.
Director Navarro, I think it's to you.
Rodney Marsh. She worked for the Yakima School District from September 1st, 1985 through June 30th of 2007, and again from August 30th, 2017 through June 18th, 2024. How about a round of applause? Rondi. Donald Mason. He worked for the Yakima School District from September 3rd, 1991 to August 31st, 2025. How about a round of applause for Donald? And the next person I've seen firsthand, her work, and I really appreciate all the work that she's done personally, and she's going to be a big loss as well for our school district, and that is Lois Menard. Lois began her Yakima School District career in 1985 at Barge Lincoln Elementary, where she launched the school's first piano lab. Alongside teaching, she served 9 years as an adjunct faculty member at YVC, Heritage, and Central Washington University, and completed advanced training at Harvard University and in Spanish immersion. A Crystal Apple Award recipient, Lois later served as interim principal at McKinley, assistant principal at McCure, and became the first principal of Yakima Online in 2010, overseeing multiple district programs in its early years. In 2012 through 13, she worked at Yakima Open Doors when it opened, which continues to help students complete their education. She concluded her career as an assistant principal at Stanton Academy, supporting the merger of Open Doors and Yakima Online. She worked for the Yakima School District from August 29 1985 to June 30th, 2024. Lois Menard. Karen Michael. Karen worked for the Yakima School District from April 8th, 2019 through September 1st, 2025. Big applause for Karen Michael.
Tara Reese. Tara worked for the Yakima School District from August 2023 through June 2025 as a special education preschool teacher at Discovery Early Learning Lab. Tara Reese. Sorry. Okay. Those who can read should. Mary San Juan. Is Mary here? Mary began her career at the Old Eisenhower in November 2014. She worked for the Yakima School District from November 1st, 2011 to June 18, 2024. Mary San Juan. Callie Scott. Callie worked for the Yakima School District from August 26, 2015 to June 30, 2025. She served as an educator and supported quite a number of students within the district. Callie Scott.
Is Nancy Smith here this evening? Nancy worked for the Yakima School District from August 31st, 2016 through June 30th, 2024. Michael Weir. Michael retired on August 29th, 2025. He worked for the Yakima School District from March 13th, 2003 through August of 2025. And last but not least, Paula Zettler. I don't believe she's here this evening either. Paula worked for the Yakima School District as a cook from December 1st, 1999 through June 12th, 2025.
Mr. Miranda, did you give everyone the appropriate care and cleaning instructions for the charcuterie boards as they went through? I thought I noticed you doing that. Thank you very much. Don't put those in the dishwasher, my friends.
Ryan?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to alert the folks who are here and the viewing public on the number of years of service that we have announced tonight. 508 years of service with this batch of retirees. That's a lot of service to the students and community of the Yakima Valley.
Absolutely. Thank you, Director Rice. Again, we thank you, we congratulate you, but mostly we thank you for your service to the district. And we know that you would love to hang out and attend the entire board meeting tonight. You're certainly welcome to do so. But we also understand if people have things that they need to do. We certainly understand that. I'm having a question about a photo. Is that? Oh, We'll take a brief recess. So if you'd like to do a family photo or a spouse photo, whatnot, in front of the backdrop, you're certainly welcome to do so. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for indulging us. Our first report to the board tonight is regarding a global end statement goal number 5 for policy 1000.1.0, and I believe Teresa Davison will be presenting this evening. Welcome.
Good evening, members of the school board, Dr. Green, and cabinet. My name is Terry Davison, and I'm the newest member of the teaching and learning team. Tonight, I have the pleasure of speaking with you about Goal 5, persistence through graduation and beyond. You have the slide deck in your packet for your reference, and we will only be speaking about 5 slides during the presentation, but if you have questions about any of the others, I can answer those. This goal is measured using graduation rates, both on time and adjustments for 5th, 6th, and 7th year cohorts. As you can see from the slide deck, we are making progress. We have sustained on-time graduation rates of 80% or better from 2022 and on. And our 5th, 6th, and 7th year cohorts are improving. Starting on the left, if you follow the color, you will see the improvements in the cohort graduation rate. On this slide, it is really important to pay attention to the N number, and it is to the left of the ethnicity groups. In looking at our rates by subgroup, we are improving, and there are groups that are experiencing less success than others. In this slide, you can see that while 50% of Native American students are graduating on time, there is a gap in outcomes compared to other groups. And again, particularly in this slide, it really is important to pay attention to the N, because one student with a small N can move the rate significantly. To summarize, we have some highlights. Improved graduation rates from 74.2% to 83.4%. We have sustained 80% and above since 2022. And Stanton had significant growth in on-time graduation. And we also have some opportunities. There are 3 subgroups that historically show a gap in performance. 2 of those we already are addressing in significant ways. And those are multilingual students and students with disabilities. And as I already mentioned, we also have a gap with respect to Native American students. Lastly, an opportunity is to explore our master schedules and look for ways that we can intervene before on-time graduation, as well as continuing in our 5th, 6th, and 7th year cohorts. There was a lot of data in those slides. I thank you for listening. And if you have questions, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you, Teresa. This is a lot of information, as you indicated. I appreciate the level of detail. I do have a couple of questions. You list under opportunities the need for looking at different schedules to help students improve their graduation. Can you kind of detail those for us, if you have that in your head?
I can elaborate on the concept, which is that within the master schedule, we need to create opportunities for students to retrieve credits if they've failed. Currently, right now, with 24 credit requirement, they can't fail any class without doing summer or after school or something outside of the school day. So it would be looking at opportunities within the school day by adjusting that master schedule to give us more opportunities to intervene.
Have you had any discussions about spreading out the number of days throughout the year? So that we just spread out 180 days over a larger portion of the year to allow for those breaks for kids that need extra help?
I have had experience looking at that in the past, but I have not been involved in that through Yakima schools.
So that's not been a part of your discussion for looking at the schedules?
It hasn't been part of mine currently, no. No, but I'm sure the high school principals can respond to that. Did Dr. Crane, did you want to respond?
I could respond to that. You may recall in the past, we've had, I believe, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, a calendar committee that would convene regularly to put together the calendar for the next year. And consistently, a consensus had never been reached on the adjustment of the calendar. As a result, it was negotiated a start date and an end date. So the earliest that we can start school now, according to contractually with the CBA, is August 15th. And then we have an end date that escapes me right now. So if we're talking about extending sometime in June, preferably before Juneteenth, but right around that date. And that's the reason it's not discussed, is because it's contractually prohibited with our CBA. I would also like to just elaborate a moment on the Core 24. So what makes Yakima unique, one of the unique challenges that we have, is that we're I think we might be the only district in the entire area that has only 24 credits. If you attend the regular school day, 6 periods a day for 4 years, each class is 1 credit. That equates to 24 credits, which Terry mentioned in Core 24. We never adjusted as a district. Many have, by offering as much as up to 32 credits. For example, I know that there's a school in the Lower Valley that offers 32 credits. What that means, if you have a challenge in a class, you have a death in the family and have some health issues, and a class has failed, then you have some retrieval opportunities that are embedded in the actual school day, which does not happen here. So in Yakima, when a student fails a course, then you're looking at recovery beyond the school day, which becomes even more challenging if you have maybe an equity of access issue of transportation or childcare, or what else it may be that you're required as a student to handle. So one of the things that we can look at, and I think that's what she was referring to, Terry, is that opportunity to explore the trimester concept or have more credits, which would be the way to address that. And I think Dr. Larson has some comments.
Outside of like schedules, we are working on expanding the opportunities for dual credits for a single class. So that is something that has increased this year, and we have people working on how can we expand that even further. So if I'm taking a CTE class, I can get a CTE credit, plus it may be also eligible for a math credit, or it may be eligible for a language arts credit. So earning more than 1 credit for the variety of content that we cover with some of our coursework is an opportunity that we're working on expanding as well.
And we work with students to make them aware of that option.
I can't speak to how the counseling part of it works yet, but in terms of creating the access and opportunity, we definitely have a number of our secondary leaders, Bonnie Smith, people in the high schools working together to make sure that those opportunities are available. And then how that all rolls out, I'm too new yet to know how that actually functions in the schools.
You can only use that excuse for just so long. You realize that, don't you?
I do. I'm trying to get around to all of the schools and get to know what are all the ins and outs. But I would defer to my counselor expert to my right as to whether that's something counselors would make sure that they're working towards making sure that students have the knowledge. And if they get enrolled in the classes, they definitely are eligible to earn both credits once they're enrolled.
Sure. Thank you.
And then Dr. Lucero has
I just wanted to share that we do have credit retrieval within the school day, and so students can earn 26 credits in 4 years because of advisory, and Stanton does currently run a trimester schedule.
Okay, thank you for that. I did notice that on the graphs that that we have in the PowerPoint that are on our webpage, that students, we've seen a steady increase in the level of achievement for students with disabilities and multilingual learners. And that congratulations to staff on that. That's, you don't often see that steady increase. It's more of a, up and down kind of thing. So congratulations on those two accomplishments as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I was also noticing that on those cohorts, we know there's a gap. We are seeing progress, and that was encouraging to see that. The other thing is also just kind of an observation. I don't know how many years ago it was, but for a long time we were on a trimester system in all of our high schools, and it's be interesting to look back and see how the decision was made. There are strengths in both systems, and there are issues in both systems, but it's interesting to see now we're back thinking, well, maybe we want trimesters again. So it'll just be interesting to observe and see where staff and students want to go with that.
Yep, it will be.
I do have a question in regards to that, the end statement and the last part of that. So I do understand the data for graduation. I'm just wondering if you could elaborate on being prepared for college career and post-secondary experiences.
Yes, actually, I can get you some information on that. And when we were preparing this, we looked into it, and I can tell you that there is a decrease, a significant one, in the number of students that require remedial coursework that are entering a 2-year institution, and a slight decrease for the 4-year institution as well. So we are making progress on closing that gap.
Any other questions? Well then, Teresa, thank you very much. Appreciate the report. Appreciate your time. This will take us to reports from members of the board. Does any board member have a report they'd like to bring to us this evening?
Just that a couple of us are leaving tomorrow for WASDA's annual conference over in Seattle. We'll be there. The conference runs through Saturday. So I know Norm and I will be in pre-conference on Thursday, a day-long thing. And then there are numerous opportunities for school directors to take advantage of different workshops and new things to learn. And I'm sorry that our newest board member isn't going to be able to attend. So we'll need to check with WASDA to see if they're going to do any regional new board member workshops, because I know they did that. They've done that for the last couple of years. And it would be, I think, very, very helpful for her to participate in at least one of those.
Thank you, Director Rice. Anyone else?
I do have something real quick.
Sure.
Recently, I think it was last month, we received some letters from some students. And so personally, I'd like to request, see if the board would approve me meeting with those students, maybe in a small group, just to, hear from them directly and respectfully their concerns. And then just to thank them for the courage, right, that they had to write these letters. And I think with our focus on student voice, I think for me, that would be a good thing to do, just to go and listen. And superintendent or anybody, the principal could be there, whatever, but I just would like to just hear directly from them and hear their voice. So that's just me. Rather than just send them letters, and so I just rather do that. So if the board's okay with that, I'd like to proceed with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
That'll take us to our superintendent's update. Dr. Green.
Yes, thank you. We now have a monthly report on public records requests, so I will pass this to Bob for the first update.
Thank you. The board's probably getting used to these reports now. We have a graph that shows how much we've had year to date in processing, and also another graph that shows processing times and where those different requests for records fall within the processing timelines. If you have any questions, I will answer those. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Bob. We also have a quick update here on goal team number 4, or goal 4, the strategic plan refresh. So it's a progress update by Dr. Lucero and Ashley Mandrell. You may remember that we're doing the refresh of the strategic plan. We know that each group is going to be presenting to the board at a different moment in time. And I believe there's been a couple of meetings now, so they're about halfway through the process. Please.
Good evening. Maria Lucero. Ashley Mandrell. So we have held 2 meetings this year. We have our 3rd one this Thursday, and do want to thank Ashley Mandrell and Noemi Macias, who couldn't be here this evening. Both of them serve as multilingual instructional specialists. So here you see the makeup of our team, the leads, the names I just mentioned to you. Participants makeup include our school leaders, families. We have staff members who also serve as parents of students in our district, and community members. We also have students who have participated in this work. We've had a student from Davis, 2 from Eisenhower, and we had a small group from 4th grade at Martin Luther King. So we conducted student voice circles to get their input. Our current goal really is centered on providing access to a 2-way dual language program, on participation in world language courses, and on attaining the seal of biliteracy. The strengths that we have identified in this goal is a celebration to start out with, is that we had aimed at having at least 75% of our pre-K-5 schools having access, providing access to a 2-way dual language program, and we're actually at 85%, or 12 out of 14, that have access to a 2-way dual language program. And then I think just the goal itself centered on dual language, it really honors and sustains students' identity and cultural heritage, supports self-esteem, promotes bilingualism, biliteracy, and high academic achievement in both languages, and builds sociocultural competence. And it also offers additional pathways to biliteracy. Currently, again, through world language courses and through the opportunity to earn the seal of biliteracy. Some weaknesses is that our current metrics are not directly aligned with our 3 dual language goals that I just mentioned previously. And the current goal does not call out the specific world language course offerings that reflect our students' level of Spanish proficiency. And what you see depicted there in the image are the 3 goals of dual language. So the plan thus far in September, you can see that we finalized our mission and our vision. We delved into some research. What was not solidly in place in 2019 when the strategic plan was crafted were professional learning communities. So we took some time to really understand the connection between Goal 4 and professional learning communities and had the opportunity to dig into some data. In October, we had some small group work and identified priorities for the revision of Goal 4. This Thursday, we're going to engage participants in crafting the first iteration of the metrics. In January, we will continue to review and refine and then finalize in February. Questions?
Thank you for that report. I do have one question, and I know we put the dual language expansion on pause because of financial and budget considerations. Is that going, and maybe that's a question for Dr. Green or Mr. Cooper, is that going to remain on pause, or are we looking at some point reinstate or continuing to expand that program so it's available in all of our elementary schools, and what's the feasibility of that given our potential future budgets?
So we are moving forward. And so the last 2 schools will have the opportunity to participate in what's called La Siembra retreat, where they will begin the planning of implementation. And we did add 2 this year.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, 2 additional schools this year.
Is that all the elementaries then? Are they all, with the addition of these 2? Will they all have dual language programs?
So we'll have 2 more. Roosevelt and Nob Hill are the 2 remaining.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. And other items for the board in the superintendent update is the 2025 AWSL Culture Kickoff Award that I mentioned previously that Davis High School was selected as one of the inaugural winners. We have been notified that Adams Elementary is also one of the recognized recipients. And I did find out more about the criteria. These schools were recognized for launching the year with engaging assemblies, themes, and fall kickoff events, intentionally setting the tone for belonging, community, and success, and then sustaining a positive culture throughout the year by fostering collaboration between students and adults. So again, recognizing Adams Elementary and Davis High School for that Culture Kickoff Award through AWSL. On the note of awards, our school board here has received yet another Board of Distinction Award from WASDA. So congratulations on earning recognition reflecting the disciplined work that you bring to governing the district and focusing on equity, legislative advocacy, and aligning resources to student needs. And it really sets the Yakima School District apart from other districts in the state. So we're proud to have been a recipient of that Board of Distinction, which that honor will happen this week at the WASDA conference. And then lastly, we are proud to announce to you and to the public that we were awarded a $200,000 preliminary funding opportunity through the Balmer Summer Discovery Program. So this is a privately funded initiative on summer discovery, and it is something that we'll work on with our local ESD, and it allows us to design and launch a comprehensive, high-quality, no-cost summer learning program for students starting in the summer of 2026. We're pleased to announce that. And that concludes my update for today.
Is that 200,000 for the grant? Is that only for the Yakima School District, or is it for the Yakima Valley?
It's only for the Yakima School District. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Green. Next item under our updates section is our highlights for community engagement. The list of upcoming school board meetings is mentioned, as well as a one sheet on multiple community, school, and varsity sporting events. That list is constantly being updated for us, and it is available for everyone under board docs. I encourage you to check that out. Any questions on the calendar from board members? Then in that case, we have two reports then from Mr. Cooper. To begin with, we have the 24-25 fiscal year end report. So Jake, please take it away.
Thank you, President Beckett, members of the board. Excuse me. So you're fortunate enough to have me for 4 presentations this evening, so buckle up.
Our agenda planning will reflect a different approach in the future.
May want to question those who planned the agenda. So I'm going to bring you some good news this evening. What you'll see before you is a much improved financial situation from prior year at this point in time. That was only accomplished through hard work and sacrifice by the entire organization. So it does not go unnoticed by the CFO when the system responds to financial constraints and reductions, and the financial situation improves. So I just wanted to thank everybody from the board all the way to the bus driver. It takes a whole organization to reshape its finances. So being that said, last year, the beginning fund balance as of September 1st, 2024 was $13.6 million. You can see on the bottom an ending fund balance of $25.774 million. A reminder, before we get too excited, that $4.5 million of that is the tax anticipation note that will be repaid in December. So when you peel those numbers back, the fund balance is up naturally, I will say, without the tax anticipation note, about $7.6 million. So we're getting very close to a stable financial position as we continue to tighten. The fund balance grew by approximately 56% year over year, which was the goal. And so that puts us on much more solid footing in the general fund as we go forward. Of course, every year is different, and we will work with our legislative colleagues as they produce new budgets and as the revenue forecast continues to drop. But again, year by year, we are not going to go into binding conditions, and the organization has stabilized financially. I am still projecting declining enrollment for fiscal year 26-27, but we will cross that bridge when we get there. So total fund balance of 25.7, less about $4.5 million for the tax anticipation note, for a total fund balance percentage of 7.6% when you take out the tax anticipation note. So much improved. One other high-level note on this slide is the debt service fund balance. You'll see that fund balance is very large. That is because the district did a refinance and has what's called a sinking fund, and so we're going to pay a large amount of debt off this fiscal year as well. So that's why there's $19 million in change in the debt service fund. The other looks at your funds across the year. ASB added a small amount, so plus just under $9,200. And then TVF, the Transportation Vehicle Fund, we have a large chunk of pending bus purchases for this coming fiscal year. So that's why that fund balance is a little bit higher than anticipated at $3.3 million. And then capital projects funds, we expended all of our district funds, and the remainder are skill center, the capital projects fund. Sorry, I will not belabor you with the small print. This is a pie chart, year-to-year comparison. As you can see, there is not much change. I apologize for the small print. We still stay around 10 or 11% of local levy funding, and then the bulk of our revenue coming from the state. Budget to actual, budgetary comparisons. So the blue bar is the 24-25 actual, and the black bar for comparison purposes is the budget. As you can see, the teal or blue bar was below in most months and slightly above, which in a few months. So you can see August, a little bit over budget, the same with July. But for the most part, we ran small surpluses month to month, which allowed us to add to our fund balance. Enrollment. This is full enrollment, full K-12. The large dark bar is our oldest year, so the highest level enrollment. And you can see as we continue to drop over time, again, I have projected enrollment downward next fiscal year. And then as you can see, you'll get the monthly report for September and October, which will give you a more current picture of our enrollment trend. The difficulty with stagnant or declining enrollment is that your finances, your financial picture begins either in the basement or slightly at subgrade. Meaning, so if you are growing in enrollment, you have fresh revenue and fresh opportunities. But when you're declining in enrollment and your costs are increasing, your finances suffer, which we saw over the last few fiscal years. This is my favorite graph, if it's correct for the year. So I often tell you that cash is king. That is still a true statement. The blue is the actual for year over year, and the green is what I have projected at the beginning of the year when we set the budget. I often talk with you about the trough. That's the months between tax collections. As you can see, that stabilized right about $8 million for the lowest. And then we ended the fiscal year above projection with total cash of 26. Now, cash is different than fund balance, which we talked about a little bit. But again, what you want to see from year over year is stable cash month to month. And then you should be able to account for that trough. The trough is always the most important part. On the board, I'm looking at the trough and then at the two ends of each, beginning and end of each fiscal year. Now, for transparency, I've always provided this information. So this is how your fund balance actually breaks down. So of that $25.7 million that we discussed earlier, I wanted to let you know what's in there. It's not all free and unencumbered cash by any means. So we have carryover. Those are carryover from our federal programs, predominantly Title I, of $1.7 million. We have skill center reserves. You hear me talk about that all the time. So 1.3% of your fund balance of your 9% total on that page comes from the reserve for skill center. So just under 3.6 million. We have self-insurance for L&I. So there's $1 million reserve in there for that. Non-spendable prepaid. I know that sounds very exciting, but that is basically inventory on hand that has a value but no cash basis to it. And then you'll see what I want to highlight on here for you is the reserve for debt service. So we are going to repay the tax anticipation note off in December. So just $4.5 million of that is the tax anticipation note payment, and then there's another $600,000 or $700,000 for our annual non-voted debt that is just to be about shortly paid off. So then the breakdown, your unreserved fund balance is at 4.91% on here, and your total fund balance is at 9.2%, remembering that we have $4.5 million that's going to be expelled for the tax anticipation note. Our strengths, of course, the system now, the district now has systems in place to be able to accurately project and track expenditures in a way that we can control and plan for. So we have very tight enrollment projections and staffing as a result, and then systems in place along the entire district to control spending in all forms and aspects. So that is one of our strengths for sure. We talk about our diversity, which is also one of our strengths. We have had dedicated staff and leadership, particularly through challenging times, all the way from, as I said, the bus barn to the boardroom. There's been leadership by all parties. And then one note, another strength is, as Superintendent just touched upon, we've been expanding our partnerships. So when you are looking for money, grant opportunities often arise, and along with that and our speculation, we've been doing some good work there. On the weaknesses side, we continue to decline in enrollment. We do have high fixed cost. We'll deal with potentially some of that later on our aging facilities. We do have to continue to put a significant amount of money in those annually to keep them up to par. And then our opportunities, we talked about grant funding. We continue to grow CTE. We also grow ALE, which is a mixed bag. So some of our brick and mortar enrollment continues to decline, but our ALE, or alternative learning, grows. So, which is enrollment in a different area of the organization and does help us with our overall revenue picture. So there's some positives there. One of those is the parent partnership, which we've discussed a few times. And then, of course, the threats. We still have enrollment fluctuations. We've had funding threats from the federal level and had to do a bit of a fire drill if that was going to happen. So that's still on my mind. And then, of course, even though the legislature is a short session, I've seen them do plenty of damage in 60 days. And so that will always be of my concern. And And we'll see, given that we already have a multi-billion-dollar deficit, what happens to the legislature. Questions about fiscal year end. And then Susan Fateman, my sidekick, wanted to make sure I put fiscal year end in. What that actually means is the completion of any 12-month accounting period, just in case you're curious about FYE means for fiscal year end. Questions before I head into the next presentation? All right. That probably wasn't a long enough pause for educators, but we'll have to go with it. So, as you know, and I've reminded you, when we close the books, beginning at the end of August, when we just finished closing the books at the end of October. So it takes a couple month period to get the books closed. And what we do then is we provide you a 2-month reports, and then you will get these reports now monthly thereafter. So cash balance is currently above projection, kind of a drag forward from the fiscal year end. And then I will like to point out on the graph when we get to enrollment, it shows projection about 300 below projection. However, that is only for this month, as we're going to have restated enrollment in Open Door, CTE, and an alternative learning program. So we should be net about 100 below projection, which with decline in enrollment makes me feel pretty good. It's very hard to project, particularly since we've had other factors pushing our demographics down.
Jake, can you explain that again? You lost me about halfway through.
That happens sometimes when I talk. Not you, me.
No, I'm thinking maybe my brain took a nap or something.
So when there's an enrollment graph that shows the budget to actual about 300 difference. However, we misstated, the district misstated its Open Doors enrollment, not realizing that we could count for the time that we had met with students prior to the start of school. So the first enrollment cut was 66 and change. That should go to over 100. We have 80 additional CTE, FTE coming in due to the shrewd scheduling of Executive Director Smith, where we've added an advisory period to Running Start students, which doesn't get counted until the October period, and then we're having to restate that. And then we've had continued growth that's being recorded and will be reflected in your new averages in ALE and home partnership. So those net should drive up the gross enrollment by about 200 and change.
So we are seeing growth in the parent partnership program.
We are indeed. Parent partnership, and then as I said, alternative learning continues to grow. Our Open Doors was us realizing that we could take credit for those student interactions prior to Open Doors has a unique set of rules. So we figured that out rather quickly when the FTE was underreported. And so Principal Stan helped us work through that issue. And then CT, as I said, Bonnie Smith is a wizard at expanding her FTE and providing opportunities for kids. And she continues to grow her CTE FTE, which has been a blessing for us financially. So,
thank you.
You bet. There's the enrollment trend on a 5-year look. So you can see the dark bar in this case, September and October. You can see we are down from 15,089 last October to 14,757. So continue to decline. And then we were up in October, and that's partly accounting for some of our changes. And we should be up again in November and December. Then, as you can see from our historical patterns, we often wane or lose enrollment as the year goes on, particularly after the new year. There's the graph I pointed to you that will be restated once we get updated enrollment. So it should be within 100 students, which makes me feel a lot better. You can see is what we talked about, Director Rice, that Open Doors number will be closer to 120, and the ALE number is actually in the mid 700s. So those will continue to enhance. There's not much on this graph yet. First month, the spending, of course, as you roll into the fall, can be pretty volatile. And then that blue line is going to drop precipitously down to that 8 million mark or so in November and December as we follow up our tax collections and then also hit the trough. So I want you to look at the trough again as the board. Remember that trough is $8 million, which is a much better place to be when it comes to cash flow than down in that $3 or $4 million mark, which, there's some months where we have accounts payable that will pop for an extra $3 or $4 million, just depending upon the expenditures. So cash flow is positive. And as the months go on, we'll watch cash very closely. Revenue budget to actual. So you can see in this graph, the budgeted revenue is less than actuals, which is fine in this case. The way our spending pattern goes, because our expenditures are also less than budget. Now, I would be worried if it was one side or the other, less worried if it was revenue greater than budgeted. But in this case, we're still to the good, about 2 million net over the 2-month period. And then those will even out as the fiscal year goes on. MSOCs, material supplies and operating costs, the more volatile of the bunch, more difficult to trend. You can see August of 23-24, we had a curriculum adoption and ESSER funds, and that's why that yellow bar is way up there. And we won't likely see a yellow bar that high ever again in my career, in the general fund, at least in a single month. And then you can see the patterns fall out nicely versus budget versus actual, the teal versus the dark bar. And then I think that is it for my first 2 presentations. Questions, comments, and queries? Any from the board?
Hearing none.
Thank
you, Jake. Appreciate that very much. This brings us to our first opportunity for public comment. This is the section for public comment on agenda items. We do have a time limit for each speaker. Thank you, Barb. Thank you. And so yeah, we do have a time limit for each speaker so that everyone is able to speak who has signed up. So if you do hear the timer go off, please don't be offended if I interrupt you. It is purely so we can keep environment so that everyone is able to speak tonight. So our first speaker is Ruby Aguilar from Heritage. Welcome, Ruby.
Hi, my name is Ruby Aguilar, and I am the chair of the social work department at Heritage University. But I come to you today not as just as an educator, but also as a parent and as a Hoover alum, Hoover Elementary alum. I attended Hoover. My siblings attended Hoover, and my son attended Hoover, and my daughter's in 3rd grade there. One thing I could say is that when I attended Hoover, I was a monolingual Spanish-speaking student who was struggling to learn English, and I found and built a community there at Hoover. One thing about Hoover, I was looking over the pictures over the weekend. I got Student of the Month many times now. And the picture of the wall is the same. Hoover has not changed. It is the same exact building. And that just brings some concern to me because, one, it's really outdated. Safety is a concern with the classrooms being spread out across campus. The portables are decades old. ADA accessibility, if you want to, be equitable and be inclusive to all students, the playground definitely needs a update with accommodations along with other accommodations. Another thing is a few years ago, Hoover held a music event for the children, and there were so many parents in the hall that could not see their children sing because we do not fit. And that was only 2 grades. If they were to allow all the students and parents to attend, we would be breaking fire code. There's over 600 students. They do not fit there. They're bursting out of the seams. And Hoover does an amazing job of building community events, engaging families, and it is so, we don't fit. We don't fit. So I'm urging you to please consider passing a bond to have Hoover build a new school that is much needed in our community. Thank you. Do I have to stay for questions or no? It's my first time, no?
Thank you, Ruby. Thank you very much. Barb, there are 2 sheets. Is this all for the first section of public comment? Several of these look like they are, but I just want to make sure. Okay, so that'll be at the end. Okay. So then our next speaker this evening will be Phil English. Welcome, Phil.
Three minutes, my God. I must have known I was coming.
The clock is ticking.
So I'm here to urge you to support the resolution for a bond issue in April. And I'm here specifically to talk a little bit about Zeffel Stadium to be included in that bond issue. Some of you, well, you might have heard some of this before. Martha, you and I go back on this thing with the stadium. So the installation was in 2014. Turf went in, track went in. The typical lifespan of a track and turf is 8 years. So we have exceeded that amount of time. We've hosted the small school state meet for the last 3 years, and we're in the middle of this 4-year cycle. So the economic impact, what makes Zeffel Stadium a little bit unusual in terms of bonds, is that I call these circular dollars, because there's a 3.5 million impact to the community. Now, you don't get that money back directly to the school district, but it does come to the community that the school district serves. That's a lot of money. So, and where are we with this thing right now? Well, the long jump, triple jump runway, we had to patch it last year going into the state meet. That's not a good situation. Because you have delamination taking place. That means the track separates from the under layer. So, you know, we're on its last legs in terms of, we obviously want to keep the state meet here. It's a great stadium, but there's other aspects to that stadium. While it's, you know, the track and the field, the way it's set up are excellent, but the infrastructure around it, you know, the press box and the paving around it is, you know, needs update. So there's very little about that stadium that I don't know, but it is a great structure. When we put it in, what makes it unusual is that if you walk on that track today, you won't see a slit on it or a split, because the base of that is 3.5 inches. Most tracks have 2-inch base. So when I say resurfaced, the same surface stays in there, it's just resurfaced. We add some layer to it. The field comes out all right, because that just needs to be replaced. The long jump, triple jump area, what makes that really unusual is that it's a concrete base underneath. So the base itself is in great shape. And you're to be thanked for, you know, for supporting that initial bond, you know, that had both stadium or the stadium and the schools in it. I see you've got 3 seconds left. Anybody got any questions? Any questions on that? But I urge you to support that resolution to run a bond in April. I think it's beneficial to the Yakima community. Thanks very much. Good to see everybody.
Thank you, Mr. English. Next on the list is Steve McKenna. Okay, thank you, Steve. I'll make a note of that. The next speaker then would be Tabitha Wilkes. Welcome.
I brought a paper because I can get pretty winded. So. Hi, my name is Tabitha Wilkes, and I am mom to 3 current Yakima School District students, including past, present, and future Garfield greats. Our family bought a home within the Garfield Elementary School boundaries nearly 20 years ago, and we've chosen to stay there in no small part because of the faculty and the support our kids receive at that school. We love our school. Garfield Elementary was built in the 60s, making the building quite a bit older than the national average of 49 years. And in fact, my 50-year-old husband who is father to my Garfield students, attended elementary school in that same building. He likes to joke about still being called to the principal's office 45 years later. So, jokes aside, the current building lacks safety, space, infrastructure, and other amenities to fully support and accommodate our modern students, especially students with autism, disabilities, trauma, and other disparities that approximately 500 students at Garfield face every day. These students need small group areas, sensory rooms, safe spaces for therapies, and other aspects of modern schools to fully access their education. According to the American Institute of Architects, research shows that high-quality school environments can boost educational outcomes, improve well-being, and strengthen communities. And I say, yes, please. We need a new school building. Over the past 15 years, we've seen many schools in our community receive new buildings, and that's Yakima School District and other school districts. Natchez and East Valley have had new schools as well. So building new school buildings is really important. And so please request a bond for a new Garfield Elementary.
Thank you, Tabitha. Next on the list is Angel Covarrubias. Welcome. I apologize if I mispronounced that.
No, you're fine. All right. Excuse me, I'm a little nervous. This is the first time I've been here. But I want to start by saying thank you to the Yakima School District. I graduated from Ike in 2011. I'm pretty sure I was in your class and you made me dance with the skeleton because I was late 5 times a week, which taught me a good lesson. Yeah. I'm here because I live about 5 houses down from Garfield. My son is in kinder there. And I also want to say Garfield staff is amazing. They treat us really well. My son has autism and they've been so helpful. And I really appreciate them. So I'm obviously here to support a bond in the springtime. A few things I would like to note is that Garfield is not just a school. So I live like a half a block away. I'm there all the time. My cousins, nephews, my aunts and uncles, like it's a hub for the community. A lot of people go there. On the weekends, you see people playing soccer, families with their kids. It's just like for our part of Yakima there, Garfield is like a pillar almost. And if you ask any of the parents or anybody whose children have been there before, the teachers there are like pillars to their own families too. The staff is there. And so when I go to visit my son, I see that it's very outdated. I don't know much about construction, but I know that old buildings take a lot of money to maintenance time and time again, which I think you referenced, sir. And so I totally, as a homeowner as well, support a bond. I would definitely vote for it. And so I just ask that you guys put it up to vote for the people to make that decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Angel. And Shelley McLean. Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening, members of the school board, faculty, and community. My name is Shelley, and I'm a paraeducator for the Yakima School District. I currently serve as vice president for our Yakima Association of Paraeducators. I've worked at Hoover Elementary since 2011, and prior to that, I've accumulated more than 20 years as a volunteer and parent group supporter. Hoover has always been my home away from home. I stand before you today as someone who has a deep personal connection to Hoover Elementary. I turned 60 last month. My husband is 62. He and I both attended Hoover as young children in the very same building that I now work in. Our children attended Hoover in the 90s, also in the very same building. More recently, we have watched our grandchildren walk the very same halls. 3 generations of my family have learned there, walking through the same doors, eating in the same cafeteria, singing Christmas songs on the same stage, playing on the same playground, and yes, even using the same bathrooms. As much as we cherish the memories the school holds for our family, we must acknowledge an undeniable truth. This building, nearly 80 years old, no longer meets the needs of today's students. While it's wonderful to have a school with such a long history, it's clear that the structure is showing its age. Some parts of the playground still have toys that my husband remembers playing on in the late 60s. The building systems are outdated, and the layout simply wasn't designed for the demands of modern education. What's even more troubling is the academic impact this has on our students. Our children deserve to learn in a space that fosters creativity, collaboration, and critical thinking, qualities that modern education requires. Outdated facilities limit our ability to offer the kinds of innovative programs that can help students succeed in a rapidly changing world. And when parts of the building are physically deteriorating, it sends a message that education is not a priority. That's a direct contradiction of the message that we work so hard to send our kids. This isn't just about nostalgia for the past. It's about the future of our children and their right to a safe, welcoming, and effective learning environment. A new school building would give our students access to modern tools and resources they need. It would allow teachers to do their best work, creating dynamic, engaging classrooms that encourage curiosity, critical thinking, and academic achievement. It would allow our community to look ahead rather than simply preserving a building that no longer serves its purpose. That's why I'm here today, asking you to partner with us to put in the work and come up with a plan our community can get behind. It's not just about bricks and mortar, it's about the future of our children. The building has had a huge impact on 3 generations of my family. Those walls have served their purpose. It's now time for us to build something worthy of the next 3 generations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Shelley. And I do want to just confirm, is it Sergio? There's no agenda item listed. Is that accurate? So I'll call on you for the second section, okay? Just wanted to make sure I wasn't making you wait for the wrong reasons, okay? Sorry. Thank you all. That takes us to our consent agenda. And the consent agenda this evening in board docs includes approval of minutes for the October 2025 meetings, notification of approval of warrants for October of 2025, approval of personnel actions, the budget status reports for August of 25, the budget status reports for September of 25, the budget status reports for October of 25, and the interlocal agreement. Does any board member wish to have any item from the consent agenda removed so that it may be discussed this evening? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion about the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you much. Motion passes. Our first approval this evening is regarding resolution 04.25.26, which will be an approval of an April 28th, 2026 ballot proposition for a capital bond measure. And to begin the conversation, I'll turn it over to Mr. Cooper.
Thank you. Before I settle in. So before you this evening is, I'll use the term interchangeably. I apologize. Ballot or election sometimes get used interchangeably. But I'm going to walk you through a resolution. Before I do that, is there a motion on the floor? I'm not going to have Anthony do it, so I'm just curious.
I think at this point, I'd entertain your. Are you presenting?
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
So before you this evening is a bond resolution or election resolution. It does a few simple things. First off, it was created in with bond counsel, in this case, Cynthia Weed, I've been doing work with for 25 plus years. She's with K&L Gates and Preston Gates and else before that. She works with us to create these resolutions, and she's also generally bond counsel. So before you, that may look like a wall of dense text, and we won't go through the entire resolution. So basically, what you're doing is you're authorizing an election for April 28th, 2026. It then provides the reader or the voter the amount of the bonds, and then gives a very brief description on what and the reason why you're asking for $200 million from the voters. Are we going to keep going?
And Jake, if I can interrupt, I should preface this that the board did vote to authorize the superintendent
Yes.
and his cabinet to prepare this, which is
Yeah,
why
no
we are at this
groundwork. I
point.
apologize.
No, I want to make sure for the record that
So
happened.
last board meeting, I gave a detailed presentation on the proposed projects within the bond, the potential tax impact. That is also, again, attached to the agenda this evening, so you can review it at your reading pleasure or leisure. And then, of course, if there's any questions from the board, I'll be happy to answer them. So I will not go through all the whereases in the resolution. I do want to go through section 2 on page 2, which is the capital improvements, Barb. So in section 2 of the resolution, it provides in detail, it's on page 2. There we go. No problem. So section 2 provides a detail of the capital improvements that we discussed last board meeting. You can see they're provided in narrative form in the resolution. So the first one, and we just heard from the public on this, is the demolish, rebuild, and refurnish of Hoover Elementary, which was originally constructed in 1947. And then it provides some details of what would be included in the project. The second bullet is the demolish, rebuild, and refurnish of Garfield Elementary, which was built in 1966, as was alluded to earlier. Given that those are complete rebuild and demolitions and rebuilds, the wording is the same, and to provide information on the project. And the other, as we noted in detail on the financial slides, it provides information on district-wide Title IX upgrades and ADA upgrades, as was discussed earlier. And then the undertake district-wide infrastructure repairs, that's on the sidewalks and drainage and lighting, etc. And then you will also see of importance, and was alluded to in the third bullet on that page, was upgrade and replace district-wide playgrounds. That's across all the elementary schools to enhance safety and accessibility. And then HVAC systems, which are also part of the bond proposal, are delineated for the reader. And then, which Mr. English talked about in the last bullet, is the sport facilities and resurface of the track and courts, including replacement of artificial turf fields. And then the more catch-all bullets are the undertake the necessary district-wide facility improvements, which is in that future projects bucket we talked about, and then provision for project management for the foregoing improvements. So that follows the presentation that I gave you numerically, but it is in a narrative form, which the bond measure or the bond resolution requires. And then most importantly, if I could take you to page, wow, sorry, Barb, page 7. There we go. So this is where the rubber meets the road. This is what the voter would actually see on their ballot. Now, just for those listening and in the audience, it can only be 75 words from approving a Proposition 4 bond. So starting with this, I believe, downward, you don't get a count should the proposition be. So we are limited to 75 words. I spent an inordinate amount of time with bond counsel trying to convey what was in the measure with enough detail to provide the voter the information needed to make an informed decision, but also meet my 75-word requirement. So I always like the board in particular to pay attention to that to make sure we're not missing anything. You can see that the proposition authorizes the rebuild and refurnish of Hoover and Garfield, which are the two largest components of the bond measure. Modernize buildings, upgrade district facilities for energy efficiency, and replace roofs. and make improvements and additions to athletic facilities and playgrounds throughout the district, and make other capital improvements in order to issue $200 million of general obligation bonds maturing with a maximum term of 20 years, and to collect the excess property taxes and repay those bonds should this proposition be approved or rejected. So simply put, following last meeting, you directed the superintendent and myself to prepare a resolution for potential election. You'll notice the election date is April 28th, 2026. So not the next special election in February, as the district will need time to provide factual information to its voters. And then if there's a campaign committee, they in turn would do their work. So all that being said, I'm taking you through what's in the resolution on the project side, what you're actually authorizing, which is to have a ballot measure before the voters, what the par amount of the bonds are, and then ultimately the rationale or the reason of what the projects are to be included. So I would be, and then in finality, the actual ballot proposition language, which the voter would see, not in the booth anymore, but via mail as it came into the mailbox. I'd be happy to entertain any questions. Bond resolutions aren't the most exciting things. They're prepared by legal counsel. As you can see, there's a lot of templated language for the IRS and the SEC and everything else. But again, this mirrors the presentation and the work that was done by 2 facility advisory committees in the past. That also provides the request for a $200 million bond issue to be ran in April of 2026.
Jake, what is the state match?
The state match on this is just over 20 million. That's detailed in the resolution somewhere.
Very
Right.
deep in all those words, huh?
Occasionally they bury numbers within the words. But yeah, that was on my last presentation. Oh, it's 20.4 million estimated, and that's estimated state match. So we went through a study and survey, which is why in part we arrived at Hoover and Garfield, because there was an in-depth survey done of building conditions, and those buildings were scored. Hoover and Garfield had the lowest score, which means they were in the worst condition based on our other buildings. And so besides age, of course, overall building condition is another reason why we choose to rebuild certain buildings first, because we have a lot of buildings in capital needs. That's another thing that I should probably reiterate is how did you land on $200 million? Well, we have a huge amount of short-term need and a lot of long-term need. And so really we were trying to find the sweet spot between tax tolerance and how much we could afford, because always remember, $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. So if you can do it now, you're going to be doing it for less than you will in the future. That's just the time value of money. But yeah, I just didn't want to lose those points.
Do you anticipate this? I don't know how often the state match percentage is adjusted.
The percentage usually is adjusted through the square foot allocation. It was adjusted last session. I will say one thing that has kept SCAP, which is the School Construction Assistance Program. I know you love acronyms, Martha. One thing that has kept the capital money in that program really growing is when the voters passed an initiative lowering the debt limit in the state of Washington. And so oftentimes the state would issue bonds out to school districts to cover the SCAP. So since the debt limit has been limited in the state, the growth of that program has also been limited. So the voters through initiative may not have understood that they were, or they did, and they capped debt accordingly, but that has slowed the increase. When we're talking about construction of close to 1,000 a square foot for everything, and they're funding a couple $100 a square, there's a significant difference. In my career, I've been lucky enough to just get enough state match to cover the property or the sales tax. And so if you think about those projects of about $80 million a piece, we're not too far from what the sales tax total would be at 8% and change. And so we're thankful for the School Construction Assistance Program. And even though our buildings are of aged and poor condition in some cases, or wearing condition, we just don't get enough money to even get close to the full cost of construction.
You mentioned sales tax. That's because the district has to pay sales tax. We're not exempt like
Yes.
baseball stadiums or something like that, right?
We are not exempt. No, we are not. So if you see, example, each elementary school is approximately $80 million on its budget. Most of that is taxable, not all of it, because there are some non-taxable items, consulting services, legal services, etc. But the bulk of that, when you issue a contract out to a general contractor, that 8.1% is going to be, or 8.6 is going to be right on it. So there is then a ripple and cascade down. So both the state and local, the city of Yakima and the county would also get sales tax revenue from those projects.
Thank you.
I do have a couple questions. I missed the last board meeting, so I wasn't able to be part of the discussion. And I did review the videos. I did hear the discussion, but I did have just a couple things. I believe I want to first say that I do fully support the bond. We do need a bond, and we need the new schools, right? Specifically Hoover and Garfield. So, but I've been around long enough to know that it's very difficult to pass a bond in Yakima. And our last experience was very challenging, as we all know, right? There was a failed bond, and then two of them, yeah. And then they came back with revised plans, right? There was initially wanted to renew or a new building for Davis, right? And so they scaled that back, and then they were able to then pass it. So I'm just kind of leery about that. Just so I have a couple of questions. One is the taxpayer fatigue, with increased state taxes, with the current interest rates where they are now, and inflation. How does that? What's the discussion around that? How do we kind of navigate through that piece of that?
Well,
it's going to be a significant
yeah,
issue. So
passing a bond measure in any community is difficult. So you've heard me say,
yeah.
The state average is about 40% for bond passage, given that we have a supermajority state. I think that in part all politics are local. It's kind of corny, but again, since we're the only district of the top 25 that hasn't had a request for a bond measure since 2010, that shows that we have a significant amount of capital need and a lot of fiscal restraint at the same time. It is difficult when there are swirling tax increases all around you, particularly at the state level, and everybody's impacted by those differently. So if you're not a business owner, maybe you're not paying additional B&O, business and occupations tax. If like the school district, we have to pay additional sales tax now on professional services. And so that is a problem along with fuel. Interest rates, though, are lowering, so that should help on the borrowing cost side. And then again, Raymond, I think the most important thing to do is, me personally and professionally, is if you're asking taxpayers for money, then you have to articulate a value proposition. I will say this is a matter of fact. The school district, when you do pass a bond measure, it's as close as those tax dollars are ever going to be to your doorway. It's not like you're giving $200 million to a project on State Route 18, which they've been building my entire life. Literally my entire life. But you the local voters are taking out their pocketbook and funding something they can see and it's tangible and it's going to be constructed. So for me, it's always about the value proposition. What am I going to get for my tax increase? In this case, you would get $200 million of capital improvements, 2 new elementaries and upgrades across the system. So I think it's really about messaging and being factual from my standpoint, is providing the facts and taking those challenges as they come, because again, passing a bond is difficult. And in Yakima, we have been very fiscally conservative, at least on the bond side. We have not gone to the voters since 2009, which was the last measure that was passed. And so it is time, as the facilities start to age, you do not want them to crumble around you, or the bill is going to be much greater later on. So that's one thing we want to.
So I do have another question.
You bet.
It's regarding the voter turnout. As we know, the recent, I think the results were at 16.4%. August was about 16, I think, last April was around 35%. So I get concerned with a 16%, 16.4% for November turnout, voter turnout. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts about how that may impact our.
That's a blessing
our
and a
bond.
curse. So this bond measure, remember, a bond has two hurdles. Hurdle 1, 60% plus 1, then 40% validation. And it's 40% of the prior year's general election. So the low turnout in November is actually advantageous to us from a validation standpoint. There are some districts this last round, because they went off the presidential, where they were either close or could not validate to get 40%, because there's a high turnout. So in that regard, Yakima County does have the lowest voter turnout in the state of Washington. I also saw recent data that we have the best voter sentiment for schools in the entire state at 48%. Yakima County, which it's in the low 40s to high 30s on the west side, and we actually have, when they just did a recent survey, we have the highest percentage of favorability for education of any county in the state, which actually surprised me. So there are pros and cons to Yakima, again, it's all about the value proposition and what you're going to get for your tax dollars.
Just the last comment, I do appreciate the rate going at 3.5, then a 3, then a 2.5. I think front loading, right, it helps with construction and getting a good start on the capital projects and so forth. So I do appreciate that as well. So thank you.
Director Navarro, if I may, as being over maintenance, you can remember that we have brought forth emergency repairs at Washington due to a roof failure with snow. This last year, we had 2 ruptures of water mains, where we have been trying to do as much preventative maintenance and try to avoid some of these disasters. But even though some of these are covered by insurance, we still have a high deductible that we have to meet. You asked the question, what happens as far as dollars concerned? I want to make sure this comes off as positive as I possibly can, but the deferred maintenance to major structures is only going to be a vastly increase the cost. A few years back, before we got hired, we had an asphalt failure where, with a heavy rain and because of the alligator, you had the ground saturated to the point to where when the bus drove over the parking lot, you had a complete blowout. And now you're talking about not just removing the asphalt, but having to do the underlayment and everything else that goes with it, driving the cost up. There are also some other things that we can do that's positive, which I saw when I was with the city Federal Way, where once we can pass something, we also have the ability to enter into PLAs, project labor agreement. And with that, we could request a certain portion of that be apprentices. And because of our VOTEC, we can make part of that where the jobs are local and even have opportunities for some of our students. So being an ex-union official, I could help walk you through how some of that would work. But this would be money, as Jake had stated, which comes from the local economy and stays with the local economy. So I don't want to go into too much detail, but passing something and building it today will definitely save us lots of money in the future. As you could see what took place with Davis Auditorium, the original estimate was just shy of a couple $1 million. And by the time we got through with this 16 years later, it was closer to just shy of 12. So again, investing those dollars today may seem expensive, but it's going to be a heck of a lot more expensive in the future, and especially if we have a system failure.
Are there other questions from the board?
Maybe not a question, but just another comment. So I do appreciate the bond, including addressing the Title IX compliance. And I think that's important that we provide equal access to safe fields, safe facilities for our female athletes, right?
I think that's a long time coming, and they deserve that as well. So I do appreciate our superintendent and the cabinet and those who are putting together this information in regards to Title IX compliance. Thank you.
Hearing no more questions for Jake, we have a suggested motion in the action letter. Do we have a motion?
I move that the Board of Directors approve Resolution 04.25.26, authorizing an April 28, 2026 ballot proposition for a capital bond measure.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on the motion or comment from board members?
I have, I want to applaud the cabinet and staff on including ADA compliance in this bond for limited mobility students to be able to access our playgrounds, for students with sensory issues to be able to access those areas that they are interested in, and have them be appropriate for their disability as well. We have a number of playgrounds in the system that have just outlived their good lives and need to be updated and pulled into the 21st century with in the area of ADA compliance. We have some community support in the past. Some of our social clubs have either donated labor or money to build ADA compliant playgrounds. And now it's time for the district and the community to, I think, to step up and provide that level of compliance to all of our playgrounds and sports facilities as well.
Director Rice.
I would also like to just follow up a little bit. I certainly support the ADA compliance. We have many elementary playgrounds that fall far short of ADA compliance, and we want to take care of that for two reasons. One is we want to make a quality playground for all of our students. We also want to make sure we avoid any kind of lawsuit in the future around non-ADA compliant playgrounds, because those can be vulnerable to lawsuit. Second of all, following up on Mr. Mariotta's information, the bond would also replace a number of roofs or repair a number of roofs in the district that fall far short of being high quality at this point. We have concrete, we have asphalt areas, we have lighting systems that are outdated or inadequate, and that creates safety hazards. And again, higher maintenance costs. So there's more in this than just the two schools, which are in sore need of replacement. But there's also a lot of things that will benefit the entire district. And so again, it's practical to spend that kind of money now. It's been 16 years since we've had a bond. Any of you that owns a home knows what can happen just with normal use in 16 years. Many things need repair, replacement, updating, and so we need to pay attention to some of those things so all of our kids can have a quality place to attend.
Thank you, Director Walker. At the risk of reiterating things that have already been said around the table, I appreciate the comments from my fellow board members, particularly understand and relate to the sentiment about the tax climate of the state of Washington at this point in time. I've had conversations about this with people on this board and with plenty of people in our community. And personally, I'm really not interested in a vanity project, but I am really attracted to the liability reductions that this presents, the student safety increases that this presents. And personally, in my own line of work, I focus a lot on long-term real estate strategy. And it has been obvious that we've been very frugal, very fiscally restrained, at the same time trying to maintain our facilities in as nice a possible way so that they are a beacon in a neighborhood community, which is what we all want for our communities. We've had 2 different committees comprised of both staff and of community members that have done assessments of our facilities and of areas of need that are presented. Both of those committees have had exceptionally lengthy lists of suggestions and of areas that we could benefit from. And again, if we can reduce liability and increase student safety, I think it makes all the sense in the world. I encourage the rest of the board to vote for this particular measure as we put this to the community. And if we do, we can be reminded ourselves, as always, that at the end, the taxpayers and the voters will make the final decision. But it is up to us to, as Jake mentioned, explain the entire list. We shouldn't let it get bogged down with just the 2 big ticket items, but people should understand the entire list that's being presented. And hopefully our community will understand the need and work with us in the process. So, Barb, would you please take the roll for us tonight?
Director Walker,
Aye.
Director Raymond Navarro Jr.,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
President Beckett.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you, Barb. Thank you, Jake and Dr. Green, for the preparation on that. Correct. Second on our approvals list tonight is an approval of the 25-26 school improvement plans. Dr. Maria Lucero, our Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, will present.
Thank you. Yes, I am seeking board approval of our 25-26 school improvement plans as submitted. The Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction does require that we draft school improvement plans that you have linked in the action letter. It is also in District Policy 2005. Annually, school improvement plans are contextualized after analysis of a variety of data: academic, attendance, social, emotional, behavioral, and perceptual data. We were notified this year that the importance of board approval of our school improvement plans to release the funds for the schools that are eligible for funding this year. Typically, you would see the full presentation in December, which you will still see, but it did need to move the approval request up to today so that there is no delay. So if there are any concerns with any of the school improvement plans, please note that they are living and breathing documents and are revised over the course of the year as needed and as the goals are monitored. Any questions?
Any questions for Dr. Lucero? Hearing none, the board is being asked to approve the 25-26 school improvement plans as submitted. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Just a brief compliment to the staffs in those schools. I haven't had a chance to read all the plans, but I read a sample of them, and there really is a lot of good data and thought that goes into those plans. And I'm really impressed with the commitment that our teachers and our principals have put forth in developing their plans for improvement. I also want to compliment them on another area while I have the floor, and that is I had read through the discipline report, which normally doesn't come before the board except as a document for us to read. But there is a significant improvement in behavior in our schools, that it's a trend, and it's trended over the last 3 years. And I again commend those staffs and our teachers and our parents for working together to really decrease the number of suspensions and other serious discipline that's going on. That means there's good positive kinds of work being done proactively to make our schools good climates as well. So.
Thank you, Director Walker. Any other discussion? Hearing without objection, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That brings us to our second opportunity for comments from the public. Sergio, I apologize for the wait. I know this is a long meeting, but would you like to begin?
Hello. Okay. Good evening, members of the board and directors and the Yakima community as a whole. My name is Sergio Corribes Garcia, and I thank you all for letting me the opportunity to speak here today. I am a nursing student at Heritage University, and I have graduated from Davis High School back in 2021, and I currently am serving as a student nurse at Davis. And I am wanting to comment on an issue that's affecting our schools and our communities, and which is the mental health of our youth. Yakima has been my home for the past 2 decades, and I've attended all its schools, and it's raised and molded me into the person I am today. And I'm here to testify and make a public comment. I come from a culture that frequently tells us to neglect our mental health and tells us to hide the pain, to keep it out of sight, and to ignore the issues. I grew up with this mentality, and on top of the stress and anxiety I got from schoolwork, extracurricular activities, and from life as a whole, I bottled it up and threw away the key. And then eventually, due to this, it led to the point where I was placed on suicide watch for when I was 14 years old. I highlight my struggles and my issues because I want to make a focus on having a primary intervention of education and health promotion of our students in the Yakima School District. According to the CDC, among adolescents, mental health and suicide are major concerns. The National Health Interview Teen Survey was an online health survey of teenagers from ages 12 to 17, and the data was collected between July 2021 to December 2023. From this survey, among high schoolers, 40% reported persistent feelings of sadness and helplessness in the year, 20% reported seriously considering attempting suicide in the past year, and 16% reported making a suicide plan. And these statistics are not just numbers. They carry that invisible and crushing weight of a mental health challenge, that bottomless and dark pit that makes you feel nauseous, unable to call out for a fear of being called weak, for being, we could call it crazy, or for being not knowing where to go for these proper resources. It's a crisis, and I want one that we need to address as a whole. Looking at it from the perspective of a nurse, mental health bleeds into our everyday lives, and it's made up of a number of facets. I want to advocate for these issues to be brought to the forefront of our school, and to educate students and staff on a variety of topics, such as signs of suicide, anxiety, ways for conflict resolution, and to identify suicidal ideation, and encouraging ways to relieve tension and stress and the stress that festers in students in healthy manners. I strive to build an environment and advocate for an environment where it is okay to talk about what is upsetting you, and then for crying and that's okay. And I want to ensure that these students have these safe spaces without fear of being labeled weak or being bullied for reaching out for that help. If we learn young how to manage the stresses of life and the school, the community, we can improve our health piece by piece as we transfer those same skills, habits, and way of thinking into our adult lives. And I speak from personal experience. I grew up in the school district, and every experience, both good and bad, helped shape who I am today. I'm still here, and I am very thankful every day that I got the help that I needed, and I eventually was able to change my way of thinking through the school district. Different avenues can be tried, such as after-school programs for allowing more socialization, referrals to mental health counselors, both internally and externally, and encouraging and fostering a culture of mindfulness and a judgment-free zone. I understand that you guys may not have the answers right now, or nor do I expect these changes to happen overnight, but I want to make a comment and have this issue addressed, and just out there to advocate and use my voice that this is a real issue, and I want to focus on.
Thank you very much for being here tonight. Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate it very much. Our next speaker on our list is Mr. McKenna. Steve. Welcome.
Welcome. My name's Steve McKenna, retired educator from the Yakima School District, former president of YEA, and I'm also a taxpayer in the Yakima School District. I have rental property. And that's where this bond issue, to a certain extent, is, I mean, there's no doubt we've got some really old schools that need to be replaced. There's no ifs, no ands, no buts. But at the same time, we are sending kind of mixed messages to the community. I just checked today on OSPI's website for the past school year, 24-25 school years, superintendent salaries, and our superintendent his compensation was more than the superintendent of Seattle, according to OSPI, more than Tacoma, more than Spokane, much bigger districts, more than Puyallup. Now, I did notice that the Bellevue superintendent and the Issaquah superintendent did make $12,000 and $10,000 respectively more than our superintendent. The average number of work days for a full FTE superintendent is now 253.2 days versus our 218 days for our Yakima superintendent. And so I'm just concerned that there's no doubt that we need some improvements at these schools. But at the same time, when we're paying these kind of wages in Yakima, you're asking people who have rental property to raise the rents to fund the bond on their tenants. And that's a big ask. And so I'm just concerned about those mixed messages. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. You have a section on policy governance at this point. We are, let's see here. I think Mr. Cooper, this is number 4 for you at this point. The report for 1000.2.3, financial condition and activities.
Thanks for counting. You bet. This is number 4, but this will be brief because the information encompassed within this report was provided to you in the year-end financial summary for the most part. Additionally, it also uses the results from the annual state audit as its one of its predominant supports, and you've also taken receipt of that, and we have another clean audit. So the numbers have been updated to reflect current financial conditions. And then, though not a motion, I would recommend a do pass. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Correct.
Has to go to survey monkey next.
Yep. No, this will be surveyed out tomorrow, and that survey will be due back on the 26th for consideration at the December 1st meeting. But if there are any questions for Jake before we move to the next, okay, well then thank you very much. For a report on 1000.2.6, which is our public access to facilities policy, we'll go to Mr. Murrieta.
This is the annual report that I give every year regarding the public access to our facilities. Yakima School District buildings and facilities have been provided primarily and specifically for use in the educational and extracurricular programs for school-age students. Any other use of district facilities must be subordinate to these uses, and that's per operational procedure 4330. Every part of this policy is primarily the same as I've reported in the previous 6 years. With the exception of during the 24-25 school year, there were 527 requests for facility usage. And for the 25-26 school year, we have already received 169 permits. Any questions or concerns?
Same situation. The survey will be sent out tomorrow back on the 26th in order for the December 1st meeting. Thank you, Barb. Thank you, Anthony. The next series are the approval of ratings that have been received for a handful of policies. The first one is for operating policy 1111, the oath of office. Did any member have any additional comment or elaboration that they would like to make?
I do. I said no, and then I do. I had submitted my SurveyMonkey results. I didn't see them reflected in the final report. So, I mean, I can go back and look to see if it actually went through or if it somehow ended up in the trash can or something. But just to let the rest of the board know that I did respond to all of those surveys and approved all of them as either partially compliant or fully compliant.
Procedurally, do we need are we under a time constraint to where we would then would you like us to delay the approval of these until that could be added?
It's not necessary.
Okay.
I mean, I think just to have it on record that they did get submitted and
sure
disappeared somewhere.
Okay.
I think is sufficient.
Thank you. Any other comments or elaborations? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the ratings for operating policy 1111.
Moved. Second.
Any discussion? Without objection, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carries. The lost track. The third is our approval of ratings for 1000.3.0, our global governance commitment. Again, if any member has any elaboration or comment they would like to add to the responses.
Can we do a global, go through all of these and do then a global approval at the end?
Unless there's objection, I'm fine with that. So we'll start with 3.0. The approval of ratings 1000.3.1, our governing style, is also attached. The approval of ratings for 1000.3.2, the board job description is attached. And finally, the 1000.3.3 agenda planning is attached. Are there any comments or elaborations for responses on any of those? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve those 4 sets of ratings.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion on the motion? Any clarification on my confusing motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Excellent. Thank you very much. And I understand that we do not have a need for executive session this evening. So at that point, then that will bring us to the end of our business meeting. Our next meeting is December 1st at 4 p.m. at Franklin Middle School. Until then, we are adjourned.